really straightforward. Two key components in the middle. So the first one being userver, and this is a specific here on network device. So it can be physically on-premise or it can be virtualized or in the cloud, but the key thing is we have an on-network component, and that's essentially our data collector, and it's collecting data from the devices. So the hardware, software, AV and UC devices and all the spaces, essentially going off, integrating it with them through a piece we call a driver. It's essentially how we communicate between the land of Utelogy and the APIs that those hardware and software manufacturers release. Essentially go off, gather data, put it back to userver, send it up a single secure pipe to uManage. Userver, you'll notice, is also where we do the configuration. So it's also where we configure the system. And we'll do a quick run through of that, just literally to show you how quick and easy it is to onboard devices to a userver. I think that's important, so you know there's not a lot of pain to actually get this up and running. Key thing being that's literally all we do on userver. So we set it up, configure the devices, and everything else is done from other parts of the platform. So other things on screen here, the other key element I spoke about is uManage. I refer to this as our pretty front end. It's essentially where we can get all of our dashboards, we can get our reports, where we can see all of the information that we're gathering from all of those assets, so those devices, in a singular pane of glass, essentially. It's also where we get the data out of the system. So it's also where we have our ServiceNow integration. We can do email alerts. We do have a REST API, so you can integrate to any other ITSM platform. And then we also have data connectors, so you can take a full database dump to your BI platform of choice, typically Power BI or Tableau. The other key elements you see on the screen here, uControl. We actually started life as a uControl, as an in-room control manufacturer. So think of the likes of Crestron, AMX, Extron, etc. Except the key differentiator with ours was it was centralized. So it was all hosted on a singular userver for that entire site, not a processor per room, which then the uControl runs on a HTML interface. So anything that has a modern browser can open it. However, typically now it's not our key focus. We actually use that for technicians panels. So we can actually deploy a control interface a technician can have on a tablet, have access to every single room and have all of the controls he needs right there in one single place while he's walking around in mobile. The final piece on screen, and kind of our silver bullet, if you will, is our uAutomate piece. And I see this used in two ways. So firstly, power saving. We have the ability to schedule power saving scenarios. So for example, we can turn devices on at night, on in the morning, off at night, but be a bit smarter than maybe the typical power saving that's been done in the past. And the way we would do that is we would turn the device on or off, and then actually ask it, we'll wait 30 seconds because we've got that constant communication to it and say, did you turn on or off? And essentially, if it didn't, the actual goal of our test wasn't to send the power on command, it was for the device to be powered on. So we've actually got the ability to check that after we sent, the power on or power off. The second way I see that used is the active room test. So actually, in the middle of the night, we'll turn that system on and actually perform some checks to make sure it's ready for use that day. So doing things like, we can play sound from the speakers and listen on the microphones to check that the whole audio system in that room is working. We can do things like make test calls depending on the codec. And then we can even, also we'll check the system to make sure it's on and change between sources if required, depending on how we're going to check that space.